That's why my truck's all the way down at the dock right now.
Because that's their parking lot?
I don't even know if I can legally talk about it right now, but yeah, it's just like weird stuff going on with something
shame.
about the deed, and yeah, it's a shame. It really is a shame, that they got to take it to that
I'll
level.
be honest with you, when I parked out back last time, I didn't know where I was going, and I parked right next to the dock, and I felt like I was out of place.
Oh, really?
Well, they were loading dive gear and stuff, and going back and forth.
That's another thing too with the divers behind here. It's they're gone all day. They just park there, and and they're not supposed to, or now they're allowed to, and it's always been a thing, right? But Yanni, you say you went diving back there, and you got to lug all your gear all the way from that. That's kind of a pain. Yeah, the worst, right? So I mean, I get all sides of it. So I'm not I'm not trying to take sides, but
Well, the space is one of the biggest problems in South Florida.
No, you got that right.
Because there's no expansion to the west and there's no expansion to the east.
Mm-hmm.
And I-95 does not invite traveling north. So
yeah, no, it's no bueno at all. So I really want to say, first and foremost, thank you so much for coming in and being with me on the show today.
I'm thrilled to do it.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it.
So for those of you listening at home or watching or however you intake the podcast, the Connected by Water experience, this is the Connected by Water podcast presented by Joey Cardi Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram and fueled by our good friends at Papa's Pilar Rum, and oftentimes fed by our other good friends at Papa's Rubber. We have a special guest with us today, Captain Bouncer Smith. Welcome to the studio. This is not your first time here. You came before when we had our big Papa's extravaganza back around the Fort Lauderdale boat show. But I'm so happy that you came in because I know we really wanted to do this one-on-one. I want to give a special mention to Carlene before we get started, to Carlene Rybinski, who's our bartender on the show and good friend. And she sat with us when we went to dinner, right? She really wanted to be here tonight, but she had her baby last Tuesday.
Oh, well, that's better than being
right.
seeing me.
Yeah, right, exactly. So Marina Rose is born. She's absolutely gorgeous. And we could not be happier for them and the family and everybody else. And I'm just trying to look through my phone here and see if I can bring this up and just show everybody there's the beautiful baby.
I got to tell you, I come down here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And I go fishing just as much as I possibly can. But the two highlights of the 12 days I've been here right now were an afternoon with A.B. Raymond's 2-year-old son and a couple hours with Billy Springer's 2-year-old daughter. Just the highlights of the whole trip are playing with those little kids. They're just such an inspiration to life. They put so much value on life.
Isn't it though? I mean, don't they?
And to know that is this her first baby?
This is her second. Yeah.
Well, she's even better off now because she's got more to love.
Right.
God, what a blessing kids are.
Yeah, she's a beautiful family. Her and Mike. Yeah, absolutely. And you're right about the kids being a blessing. They really are. My kids are 8 and 11, so I'm like right in that wheelhouse of sometimes I want to bring their neck, sometimes I just want to squeeze them and hug them to death. Right. But
especially. You want to hug them when they're sound asleep.
Yeah.
And maybe even tickle them to get even.
we went to the CCA Broward banquet last night.
If I'd have known it was going on, I would have been there.
Oh, you know what? I should have brought you along with us. So I brought my wife and the kids with me. So we brought them to the banquet, and because they absolutely eat that stuff up, and they always love getting to come to Daddy's work and all that. So I was the featured artist that was there signing prints. And
that's great.
So.
For anybody that doesn't know the CCA, if you're not a member of the CCA, the Billfish Foundation, the IGFA, you're really missing out. And Bonefish and Tarpon Trust. Because if you're not supporting those organizations and you're going to work every day and trying to live life, you're really missing the boat. Because for a minor investment, you're investing in the future of your sport if you like to fish.
Yeah.
These organizations... They are our spokesman in everything we do. I just had lunch with Ellen Peel from the Billfish Foundation, and she's fighting tooth and nail with NOAA right now over the tragedy of the coastal sharks.
Right.
And these organizations just the backbone of what goes on.
So one of the things about the coastal shark situation, and I believe with Ellen, specifically in the Billfish Foundation, they were working closely with Fly and with Patrick Price before he passed away.
Yep.
And Patrick really was on the forefront. We had Pat in about 2 or 3 podcast episodes with Pat to discuss the topic, and he was really the one that grabbed the baton and started leading the charge.
He sure did.
With all that, and he's set up that very fruitful Facebook group, Fishermen Fighting for Marine Balance.
Yep.
They didn't want it to be, and wanted to make the message clear that, hey, listen, we're not all for just annihilating sharks altogether. We just want to provide a balance, and what can we do to help out that, because the situation right now really is very much out of control on a lot of levels. I mean, but just to go back and talk about Pat, in his memory, I just wanted to be able to honor him a little bit, because he really was, in the grind, and one of the truest and best captains along the East Coast, Florida.
Well, he was one of a select group of men who I never met, but I had utmost respect for because of their taking a stand.
He sure did.
On our world today, whatever it is in our world. The people that take a stand and make issues known are the only way that the layman ever learns what's going on until it's too late. And even then, sometimes, is it too late? Well, we hope not. That's for sure. But
yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, and when he really started taking the stand, as you say, he really reached out to a lot of people that normally probably wouldn't have heard this message. But then he also took the next level, and he reached out to the CCA, and he reached out to Ellen, and he started getting groups like that involved and saying, what can we do on the macro level to get things done. So it's nice to hear that Ellen's really still putting forth that effort.
Oh, she's staying up at night worrying about it. She's really working hard on it.
Yeah, because it affects billfish.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I have a friend who runs a boat out of Jupiter, Doug Coven. He runs a private boat.
Yep, Doug's a great guy.
And he tells stories of you hook a sailfish on the third jump, there's 3 or 4 sharks eating it in the air. I've seen pictures that Kerry Chen took where the sailfish is jumping and there's 2 sharks biting the sailfish while it's in the air.
Yeah.
And I had lunch today with Tony DeJulian, and he was up in Oregon Inlet, and a big yellowfin tuna comes up and blasts a trolling bait, and before the drag starts to go out, there's a shark attacking the tuna.
Right. I
mean, people can't fathom how perfect a hunter a shark really is. Somebody was talking about a hammerhead the other day. Well, they were talking about a hammerhead in the Frost Museum. And they went to the Frost Museum, and there was a scientist there talking about how a hammerhead feeds, which I learned a long, long time ago, is a hammerhead locks onto the scent trail of one fish. And he'll bump right in to one fish and they completely ignore it because he's on the scent trail of another. And he just pushes it and pushes it and pushing it until it's panicked and panicked and panicked till it's just exhausted. And then it just moves in for the kill.
Wow, it sounds like an alligator. Like an alligator will just wear out its victim or drown out its victim and eat it later.
Yeah, alligators actually put it away to tenderize for a while.
Yeah.
From what I've been told. I mean, I've never been eaten by one.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. So, I mean, really, when it comes to the shark thing, you've been, all right, obviously, you're retired now, but you were a captain for 50 years?
54 years.
Yeah.
And you want to know the truth? One of the reasons I retired was sharks.
Really?
Tarpon and sailfish were the mainstay of my business for the whole 54 years. And to be quite honest with you, I would work an 8-hour day. All I did was 8-hour days and 4-hour evenings for tarpon. And I was fishing without a mate. I was fishing over 300 days a year and over 120 nights a year. And year in and year out, when I was at Bud and Mary's in 1976, we used to kill tarpon to mount them. And I had a tarpon tied off hanging over the back of my boat, half in the water, half out. And a hammerhead came in on that tarpon, and I pulled it out all the way in the boat. The next shark attack I had on a tarpon was in 2010.
Wow.
From 1976 to 2010, I never shared a tarpon experience with a shark.
Mm-hmm.
By 2015, every tarpon I hooked, I was worried about a shark eating it.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly thereafter, we changed our whole game plan from fight them till they let roll over, hold their head out of the water for a picture, revive them and let them go. I changed the routine more like sailfish tournaments. Get a good fight out of them while they're still real frisky, grab the leader, pop the leader, and send them on their way.
Yeah.
While they had a lot of energy to get away from the sharks. And in the last couple of years, the tarpon changed their migration patterns, their habits, because the bull sharks were pestering so much that they weren't comfortable in their old stomping grounds. It was that bad. So
yeah,
they were part of why I retired. If I couldn't have my fun with the tarpon, I was losing out on a big part of what made me love fishing so much.
I think that's part of the argument too. For a lot of the people making their livelihood on the water as captains, it's really affecting, tourism and the ability to do their job.
You take Doug Coven as an example.
Mm-hmm.
His job is to
Doug's a great captain, by the way.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I just had time to speak with him at the Palm Beach Boat Show. We hung out for a little while.
And his job is to entertain clients and employees of a very big corporation. And he's been sailfishing his whole life. And he was one of the top sailfish release captains for the Billfish Foundation. He was one of the top tagging captains for the Billfish Foundation. So when they're almost like your pet dog. You deal every day with these fish. They're beautiful. They put on a great show. You get them up to the boat. You let your people see what they caught. You don't take them out of the water. You put a tag in them. You send them on their way. And you say, hey, maybe we'll see you again tomorrow. And they're like a pet. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, 4 and 5 a day get eaten by sharks.
It's insane.
These are like watching your dog get attacked by bears in your backyard. How long would you put up with that?
Yeah. No,
you can't live with it. You can't do anything about it. So you have to change your whole lifestyle. You got to become a dolphin aficionado where you're out too far from most of the reef sharks.
Right.
Or
well, that's part of the problem too. Most of the scientists and the specialists doing the research on the sharks that don't think that there's a problem are not even fishing in the right areas. And they're not really connecting with any of the captains that do it for a living that are fishing in the right areas. You have the real data.
It's like we were talking about at lunch today, which was a whole bunch of fishermen. The offshore pelagic sharks are in grave danger.
Mm-hmm. The
long lines, the drift gill nets, all these different methods of harvesting fish offshore. That's the mako shark, some of the big-eyed thresher, the oceanic white tip, stuff like that. They're really overfished. But there's another whole group of sharks called the coastal reef sharks, the bull sharks, the sandbars, and stuff like that are out of control because in Florida, they've been commercial shark fishing since 1900.
Mm-hmm.
Florida shark fishing was the number one supply of vitamins up and through into World War II. During World War II, they started developing synthetic vitamins to replace shark liver oil. And when that ended, which it never ended actually until recently, but it was shark fins, it was the shark livers, it was the shark meat, and the shark skins were sellable. There were guys bottom long lining off of Miami that were deliberately targeting sandbars and bulls. Mm-hmm. That was their number one target. They were bottom fishing in 300 feet of water. And then Jaws came out, and every charter boat was making a living shark fishing, and they were killing the sharks so people could get them mounted. And then the mount industry went from skin mounts and real shark jaws to fiberglass reproductions, which are great for fisheries.
Right.
Because now we don't have to kill the fish to have a beautiful trophy hanging on our wall. Although I know a guy named Dennis can outdo the taxidermists or the old mounts.
Whenever you're ready, anybody. www.connectedbywater.com.
How many feet you want that tarpon? Look at that tarpon on the wall. It'll tell you that Dennis can do the job. But at any rate, the bottom line is, and then they start protecting the sharks.
Right.
So now you can't catch a snapper or grouper. can't catch an amberjack. We went fishing on Wednesday in government cut, solid tarpon. Best I've seen tarpon there in a long, long time. We're fishing with live crabs. We get a good bite. Doesn't fight like a tarpon, fights just like a big permit.
Mm-hmm.
We never get to see it. Gets eaten by a shark. Whatever it was, a shark ate it.
Right.
Wherever you go, tunas up north, sailfish down here, reef fish, whatever, inshore tarpon. I had to talk to a guy last night, called me up. He says, you wouldn't believe it. I was in the middle of Biscayne Bay, way far from either inlet, had a big Jack Crevalle on it, a bull shark, 400 pounds, came up and ate it.
Mm-hmm.
The sharks are just overpopulating, and a balance of nature, which is what Patrick was all about. It just dictates that if we're going to, we all want some sharks in the ocean because they eat the diseased fish. They control populations. There's so many important things about a shark. But we all want policemen to have guns, but we don't want everybody to have guns necessarily.
Right.
Or whatever the situation
Yeah. I mean, listen, I mean, the reality is that there's a problem, but people don't necessarily think that there's a big problem because they're not out on the water as much as the people that are every day.
The difference is if you get 20 miles from the ocean, you don't know there's a problem.
Right.
Generally speaking, the people that fish, whether it's from Maine to Texas or from Mexico to Canada on the West Coast, if you don't live within 20 miles of the ocean, you're probably not exposed with any regularity to what's going on in the ocean. It's like manatees.
Right.
Manatees, everybody loves manatees. I love to see a manatee when he swims up in my marina. And if you weren't on the water, you thought that the boatmen were going out of their way to kill manatees.
Yeah.
Because it would save the manatees. And what's really sad, not to change the subject, but now the manatees are starving to death because of the pollution of the Indian River.
Yeah. I mean, with the runoff and everything that they're going on with the mosquito lagoon and
all those algae blooms and nutritions and I personally am one of those that firmly believes it's Roundup that's killed most of the bay grass. Biscayne Bay didn't have a runoff discharge from Lake Okeechobee, but all the grass died north of Government Cut, and all those canals are cleaned out with Roundup.
I had a situation where nobody really ever talks about, like, take a town like Coral Springs, which is out west that borders the Everglades. Now, I always thought that they were missing the boat in the fact that they don't ever do any promotion for saving the Everglades or preserving the Everglades in that town. They want it to be a nice little suburban town, and nobody talks about anything else. But the bottom line is it's a very large town that borders the Everglades. So are they doing anything to promote, the conservation or the restoration of the Everglades? And the answer is no. And I reached out to the mayor at the time to come onto the show to discuss it, or to come onto the show. And he said he'd come on the show. And then he emailed me, what do you want to talk about? And I said that. And then he said he didn't want to come on the show. So, and I don't mean to throw him under the bus or anything like that, but there is, I think, a certain reality of it. Now when I look around and I see all the little John boats inside these little communities spraying, the coastlines, it's like, well, what are you doing?
I'm on a government or I guess it's not really, we're trying to save the coral reefs. We're doing everything we can for the reefs.
Right.
And we have,
which desperately need assistance, I believe.
Very much. We have Zoom meetings.
We're down to 2%.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
But we have a Zoom meeting every month or so. It's 2 nights. We meet for 2 hours on Monday and 2 hours on Wednesday, or 2 and 2 on Tuesday, whatever. It doesn't matter. But we're supposed to be discussing all the different ways of saving the reefs, doing whatever we can for the reefs.
Right.
And the last 3 months, all we have talked about, when the dust settled, all we've talked about is runoff from the coast, from the inland going to the ocean.
So is that the big issue, you think?
Well,
is that being established as being the big issue?
Well, there's no question about it. They're finding more and more evidence of Roundup in the salt water. You have road pollution, which is oil, transition fluid, radiator fluid,
Right.
rubber, all that stuff. Every time it's dry, it all builds up on the roads. Then we get a rain, it all runs into a culvert pipe or a manhole. And
I think he wants to come on the show. Don't lose that thought. Connected by Water, can I help you?
I was trying to really connect to a world famous fisherman and author by the name of Randolph Bouncer Smith.
I believe he can hear you.
He can.
Yeah, and just so the crowd knows, we're speaking with Mike Myatt, our good friend from Papa's Pilar Rum. You are live on the Connected by Water show.
You know what? I was kind of hoping I could be, because I just wanted to congratulate Bouncer on the release. I believe this is your third book, Bouncer. You ain't done yet.
Yeah,
this
fourth.
Is book number 4.
Book number 4. Yeah, we were just about to bring that up, so that's the perfect segue to it.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you can see it or not, but there it is.
I'm not done yet.
I'm not done. Well, of course he's not done yet. That guy, since he's retired, makes me feel like I'm asleep. Every single day he is posting about, catching sweetwater fish, saltwater fish, deep dropping, jigging, freaking live bait, and he still has enough time, which this really endears me to him, Dennis, is to take care of his first mate. And I know he's like a son to him, A.B. Raymond. And, he's always putting him online and talking about the great days he has. So, Bouncer, when do you relax, or do you relax?
I'd like to tell you, Mike, that I get home at 10 o'clock at night and I pour a Papa's Pilar and I sip on that while I watch a little bit of TV, and then I fall asleep. But the honest goodness truth is that I've cut down my alcohol consumption to about 2 drinks a month. But when I do, other than the other day when I did have a pina colada in a bar and they didn't have any Papa's Pilar, I don't know how that happened because I was in Key West. But I've cut down on my drinking a lot. So I'm still drinking Papa's Pilar, but not as much.
Well, it's, you know what, Bounce? We're not getting any younger. It's about health. I switched it up. I'm going the other way. I've cut out all other liquors, and I'm just going straight up Papa's Pilar.
Well, that's all I'm drinking. I'm just not drinking as much of it. That's all.
Right. So tell me a little bit about this new book, man. You ain't done yet.
Well, that's what this book is about. I started to write a book about my first year of retirement. And then my great friend and the true writer of my books, Patrick Mansell, said, well, let's make it a combination of some of the old stories, some new stories, and now we can put pictures in the book so you can see what we're talking about. So we have had so much fun with this book. And the scary part is I had Pat Mansell was at lunch with me today, and we were talking about how we missed out on a lot of good stories. So we may not be done yet.
That sounds like you may not be done yet. The part 2.
Yeah.
Before we get any further, how's Susan doing?
She's really doing great. In November, she got a black lab puppy that's been running her ragged. We moved to a house in Marietta, Georgia. She's got a huge yard. She loves the gardening, and I've been down here for a couple of weeks, and she keeps sending me pictures of everything that's coming into bloom. My rose bush is just solid red, and her grandkids are there with her. She's living large. She's retired in a good way too. We're both loving retirement to the max.
I'm digging that, man. Please give her a smooch for me, okay?
You betcha.
But anyway, you know what? As I was watching you guys live, and I poured myself a little dram of Papa's Pilar Leatherface, or the Legacy.
Oh, you got the Legacy going.
Yeah. But I just wanted to say, Dennis, thanks for keeping everybody connected by water, man. You're doing an awesome job, and I love you and everything that's going on down there. And Bounce House, you're right there in my thoughts every day. So I'm going to raise the glass, even though you guys can't see me. But raise one too.
We will raise one to you.
We got you up, Mike.
All right, here you go. Mazel tov.
There you go. Papa would be proud, my friend.
You know what? He should be proud.
No doubt.
He should be proud. Well, listen, you guys have a great show. And Bouncer, I can't wait to read the book. And Dennis, I'll talk to you beginning of the week and give Liz and everybody my love. And hey, shout out to the new parent.
Isn't that something?
How about that?
Yeah.
Huh?
No
Fun
doubt
stuff.
about it.
Fun stuff. You know, the funny thing is, with Carlene, I texted her today, and just as a joke, I said, "Hey, Bouncer's going to be coming in at 4. Are you ready?" And she just had her baby Tuesday, and she goes, "Really? Well, maybe I can." I go, "Will you stop it?" I go, "I'm just messing with you." She goes, "Yeah, doctor doesn't want me to drive yet."
You think I don't get any sleep? I'm sure she's not getting any sleep right now either. So.
Well, I'm sure that Mike is helping out in a big way around there. But when you see her, tell me that I want to be first in the bidding for some of that new crop of hair. Did you see the mop on that child?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I've got a pot scrubber right now. That child has like a legitimate do going. Killer. All right, you guys. Well, listen, have a great night. Love you both. And I just need to call in and send that out to you.
It's great to hear from you, Mike. It's always a pleasure.
All right, Froze. Later on.
Have a good one.
What a gentleman.
Mike's great people, man. I knew, he knows we're podcasting.
Yeah.
So that's why I picked up, because I'm like, oh, Mike's calling because he wants to be on the show.
Yeah.
Right. So I had to pick it up. Yeah.
Well,
so didn't mean to cut you off there.
While we change the subject.
So let's segue right into the book. Let's talk about it.
Just for a second, I just want to mention, first of all, that Mother's Day is coming up, and you can give Mother flowers, or you can, for a very reasonable price, you could give her this book, and she would understand why you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and coming home stinking like there's no tomorrow. Because this book is full of stories about great adventures on the water. And if you need it in time for Mother's Day, you can get it R.J. Boyle's Captain Harry's Dusty Sports Center, or real quick, you can get it on Amazon. And if you get it on Amazon, if you get the ebook, which is the books on tape, or not on tape, but
the Nook thing or whatever. One of the I don't know. I still read books.
Yeah, you open a electric book, an ebook.
Yeah.
And in these pictures are black and white, but in the ebook they're in color.
Swanky.
So,
all right.
So either way, you can give Mom a book for Mother's Day.
Let me ask you something. All right, because you're supposed to be retired, but you're not really, right? Because it almost seems like you're busier than ever.
No, let me tell you the difference between being working and retiring.
Okay.
When I was working 6 or 7 days a week and several nights a week, and I was really making a decent living, but I was in a situation where I had more money income than I could really put to good use.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a GoFundMe for this captain that had a heart attack. There wasn't a GoFundMe, but there was a kid in the business who couldn't pay his rent. There was a kid on the dock who was going to see his father in Colombia. So I was making good money, and I was going to work until I had to feel my cold, dead fingers on my steering wheel.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sharing my good fortune. Now I do just almost as much fishing, and I don't get a check at the end of the week. So I'm going.
Are you having more fun fishing now, do you think? Or like when you, because you had to enjoy customers, and probably more so your regular customers that would come see you often, you get used to those people. Do you enjoy doing it now more than you did then?
There's two things that are missing now.
Mm-hmm.
One of which was my philanthropy, which I was overboard with. But the most important trips that I ever ran in 54 years were every time I had a chance to take an underprivileged kid or a disabled veteran fishing.
Yeah.
Whether the veteran had PTSD, I think that's the right initiation. But anyway, I took one veteran fishing who had been blown up 3 times.
3 times?
Didn't have a scratch on him. 3 times his vehicle was blown up.
Wow.
But the shock of being blown up, the people that were with him that did not survive, this guy, when we were getting ready to make the trip, and it was a organization that we were dealing with, but the head of the organization says, I got one guy, I want him to sit with you. We had dinner the night before. He says, I want you to sit with him at dinner tonight and try to put him at ease, because he's really stepping out to try to do something outside of the house, to try to go fishing. So make good contact with him. Maybe you can make him comfortable, and then we'll have him fish with you. And to shoot the breeze with that guy about everything except for his experience, and just have a good evening together, and then go fishing the next day, knowing that I had something to do with his getting out into the world again, that he was so afraid of the world anymore, was very rewarding. And then if you've got time, I'd like to tell you my very favorite story of all stories.
Please do.
Florida Sportsman Magazine used to have fishing expos in Miami and Tampa and St. Augustine. I think they still have one in St. Augustine. But anyway, they had one in Miami every year. I went to work at the Miami Billfish Tournament booth. So I had for all intents, a briefcase, if you want to call that. A fisherman with a briefcase is a lot of place. But I had...
You had a briefcase?
No, I think it was a public grocery bag, but whatever it was.
I was going to say, I got a visual there. That was pretty hardcore.
I have a bag with a jig and a plug and a hook and a brochure in it.
It would almost be like an episode of SpongeBob. Like a SpongeBob walks in a room with like a briefcase, and you don't know what you're going to find in that thing.
That's for sure. But at any rate, I was going to my booth. And on the way through the show, I'm going down through the show, and here's a mom and dad, a little girl, and a kid in a wheelchair with no hair looking at one of the exhibits. So I walk by probably 200 feet, and I get to my booth. And by the time I got to my booth, I'd made my mind up. I put my grocery bag down, and I turned around, and I went back looking for the family. Well, Mom and the 2 kids were right where I left them. Dad was missing. I pulled out a card, and I said, my name's Bouncer Smith.
Right.
I'm a fishing guide. I haven't gone fishing in 3 or 4 days. I want to take your family out fishing the first chance you're available. It was in October. Business was slow in October. So about that time, Dad says, he's behind me, he says, you're going to take us fishing? I says, it'd be a pleasure. So Charles was in the wheelchair. He'd had 3 brain tumors removed. But he had just gotten out of the hospital, but right now things were looking promising. So Father Allen and son Charles met up with me on Tuesday morning at Keystone Point Marina. We got on my boat. We had a 256 Dusky. We went out on a grass flat. I gave Dad a trout lure, sent him up to the bow, see if he could catch a trout. And Charles and I fished in the back of the boat with half a sabiki rig, baited with a little piece of shrimp. And we were catching little pinfish and stuff, and we were putting the pinfish in the live well to go use them for live bait. And I mean, every pinfish this kid he had no hair.
Oh, he must have thought that was the greatest thing.
It's just a doggone good thing he had ears, because his smile was from ear to ear, and laughing and carrying on, just having a ball. And Dad was up on the bow, just totally engrossed in catching a trout that wouldn't bite. So we caught enough pinfish, and I says, okay, we're not getting any trout. Let's make a move. We went up to some canals at the very north end of Dade County, where there'd been a lot of small tarpon and jacks and ladyfish stuff. We went up there, we fished a couple hours, and it was just phenomenal. 6 or 8 fish, no tarpon. The tarpon were there, but they didn't bite. We caught jacks and ladyfish, and again, just smiling like crazy. And Charles started to slow down. And Alan says, it's almost noon. We better get him home. We've been on the water a long time. So we packed it up and we went home, headed back to the dock. We got to the dock, and Alan says, boy, I'm in big trouble now. I says, why is that? He says, well, I was supposed to get some pictures for Sue, and I didn't take any pictures. Let me take a picture with you and Charles. So we took a picture, me and Charles. And I had 3 Sues that I knew at the time. Sue Cocking from the Miami Herald. Sue Baker ran the Met Fishing Tournament. My sister's name's Sue. So I says, which Sue are you talking about anyway? He says, Sue Cocking wants to do a story about you taking us fishing. I says, You can tell Sue Coggins she can do a story about taking, or you guys going fishing, but don't do a story about me taking you fishing.
Mm-hmm.
I took you fishing because I wanted to take you fishing for no other reason. He says, well, we'll see. Sue Coggins called the next day, and I said, look, do a story about the father and son going fishing. She says, well, we'll see what happens. So 2 weeks later on Sunday, there's a beautiful article about me taking Charles and Alan fishing. So I get a phone call 2 days later from Ryan Edelstein. He says, are you Jewish? I says, no. He says, well, I'm Jewish, and I'm turning 13, and I have to do a mitzvah for my bar mitzvah. You know what that is? I says, I've heard of it. He said, well, a mitzvah is a good deed you have to do in order to become a man at 13. I says, well, what can I do for you? He says, I want to charter you to take Charles and Alan fishing. So, okay, we can work that out. So he took Charles and Alan and his brother and himself and I, and we went fishing for the day. And in the course of the day, Charles and I double teamed some 15, 18-inch gag groupers on DOA Terrorize. So we sat on the back seat of my boat with a gag grouper with a DOA Terrorize hanging out of the corner of his mouth, a grin on Charles from ear to ear, and he sent that picture to Sue Coggins. Sue Coggins did another story with a picture.
Another story
about Ryan Edelstein buying a trip for Charles.
Yeah.
So Ryan calls me up 10 days later. He says, I got a disaster. I said, what's the matter now? He says, a mitzvah cannot be rewarded. I says, yeah, so? He says, I got a check in the mail for the charter. I said, what are you talking about? He says, a guy mailed me the check. I says, well, so now what are you going to do? We're going to take him fishing again? He says, well, I called to ask your permission because I kind of felt you were involved. He says, can I send him to Disney World? The whole family.
Mm-hmm.
I says, that sounds like a great idea. Maybe the girls will get involved. So he contacted Disney World. They gave him double value of the check. He sent this family of four to Disney World for the weekend. And I get another phone call from Marcia and Lenny Bierman, famous fishermen several years ago. We want to charter the boat to take Charles fishing. So Charles and Alan and Marcia and Lenny went fishing with me 3 more times. Meanwhile, DOA sends Charles a whole tackle box full of lures. I don't remember who it was, but a tackle company sent him a rod and reel. And he was sent a membership to every fishing organization you can think of. Mm-hmm. And just because I felt like going fishing, I was walking through the
That's
fishing
outstanding.
show.
See, everything that you just described in that story is everything that we named our company about when we say Connected by Water.
Yeah.
And it's that.
Yeah.
It's really the essence of what you just spoke about, of how it's all kind of
sure, no doubt
exponential.
Yeah.
From there. And if you put one positive thing forward, see, to me, fishing is magic. It really is. Like just the things it does beyond just catching a fish. There's camaraderie, and we have this kind of running conversation on this show about when you go fishing with someone, that's different. That's a different way to spend time with somebody. In hunting is the same way. It's a different memory to have, and it's a different bond you create when you have that experience with someone, unlike anything else in the world. And we've come to the conclusion that it's probably some sort of deep-seated tribal thing in us as human beings that really makes that deeper connection. It's like when you see a guy that you haven't seen him in 5 years, but hey, we went fishing that one day. Remember that? It's like you guys are bonded for life.
Well, two time issues along your train of thought. Number one, we tell people all the time, if you'd like to have that fish mounted, they do them out of fiberglass now. Mm-hmm. And the guy says, well, what would I do? I says, well, you hang it in your office. A guy walks into your office and you want to sell him a car, you want to sell him a mortgage, whatever it is. He walks in, he sees that permit, bonefish, tarpon, catfish, whatever it is, hanging on your wall. He knows that he's in the office of a fisherman. Mm-hmm. And he happens to be an outdoorsman. What kind of fish is that? I'm from Ohio. Oh, it's a so-and-so. How do you catch them? Oh, it's such and such. 45 minutes later, The guy says, where'd you want me to sign for that contract?
Yeah.
All you've talked about is fishing.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're fishing buddies.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is one of the most important things you do. I run into people all the time that say, I own a boat. I'd love to go fishing, but I don't have anybody to go with me. My daughter's into ballet. My wife gets seasick. My son's into girls. All of a sudden, I don't have anybody to go fishing with me. Every tackle shop has a teenager hanging around that eats, sleeps, and breathes fishing.
Yep.
And has no way to go fishing. And when you walk into that tackle shop and that kid's sitting around and you're looking at the lures and you turn to you say, what lure do you think I should use for a whatever? He's going to tell you how this one works, how that one works. Call his mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Say, hey, can I take Joe fishing with me this weekend? And a lot of them are going to say no, but some of them are going to say, oh, that would be such a great pleasure for him to be able to go fishing. Who are you? What kind of boat are you going to take him in? And there's a checking out situation there. But once it's checked, and it might be a 25-year-old kid hanging around the tackle shop with not 2 cents in his pocket, but he still just lives to fish. Or he might be hanging around the marina wishing he could go fishing. He might even work as a dock boy in the marina. But you take one of these kids that can't go fishing, and you take him out and take him fishing. You've made his whole life. You've made a friend for life. You've given an opportunity to something he loves to do. He's going to repay you with a scrub brush and a bucket of soap, or filleting your fish for you, or just a smile and a thank you. But there's nothing, and it could be any person. That kid might be 50 years old, and you see him every time you go to the tackle shop. He's sitting in there smoking a cigar and wishing he was fishing. You know,
Yeah.
he's just holding down a chair somewhere. Or it might be a guy that works for you that, you caught a sailfish? Well, I wish I could catch a sailfish. But my own personal opinion, I talk to people who say, I love to fish alone.
Mm-hmm.
Fishing alone to me is a lost cause. Because when I go fishing, I want to be able to talk to somebody later and say, boy, did you see that fish jump?
Yeah.
Did you see that frigate bird diving on that flying fish? Wow, did you see the size of that wave? I mean, I like to share life with people, so I would be lost fishing alone on a regular basis. Once in a while, solitude's good, but I'm a people person.
I had a good buddy of mine, this is years ago, not that long ago. He was down in the Keys with his family. This is the guy that I grew up fishing with. You know, one of those buddies when you're teenagers and you just got that little center console, you just send it, right? And you're just going out and we were just catching little peanuts all day long. It doesn't matter, right? That's my buddy who called me, and he had never caught a blue marlin before. And he was on his first blue marlin. He had taken his family down to the Keys, but he just took the boat out himself, right? And this goes back to your shared experience thing, that he wanted to share that so bad.
Yeah.
That he called me up. He goes, I just called you because you have to be on the phone with me while I do this. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm fighting my first ever blue marlin. And he kept me on the phone the whole time and he lost it. So I was on the phone with him when he lost. He was going to lose. He knew he was going to lose. The thing was like too big for him. But he lost it. But he was like, oh man, I was so glad you were on the phone with me for that. And it matters. You
bring up a very great life-saving device I met the other day. I have a very good friend, Chris Conklin, up in Merle's Inlet, South Carolina. And he just bought a big center console. And he and his buddies were going on their first swordfish trip.
Right.
They were down here and they bought a couple of electric reels from Tristan and Tom. And he was going to go out and give it a try. So for several days, it's what kind of hooks do I buy? What do I rig up for bait? What kind of skirts? What's on the leads? All these questions. So now he's going 110 miles offshore to go sword fishing. And I get a text. He's supposed to be out surfing. I get a text. Hey, we just pulled the hook on a swordfish. What did we do wrong? Did you set the hook? No, how do you set the hook? I said, well, how you got your drag set? He says, I don't know, about 15 pounds. I says, well, at strike, you need your drag set at about 35 pounds. And then you need to know what numbers on your reel is 15 or 18 pounds, because you want to hook the fish at 30 or 35 pounds of drag,
Mm-hmm.
and then pull it back to 15 pounds. Even if you pull it back to 1 pound more than your lead, that's all you really need while the swordfish is swimming up the lead, because they fight the lead, not you,
Right.
when they're 3,000 feet away. So then he called back, or he texted back a little later, we got him on. We can't control him. What do we do? Which way do we drive? I texted him back, and I'm back and forth all afternoon. We're texting back and forth. I'm going, how in the world are we texting? It's 110 miles offshore. I'm not here to plug any product. I'm actually, to be honest with you, I'm not a Garmin fan. But Garmin has a product called an InReach.
Okay.
And it's half the size of our cell phones. And you Bluetooth your phone to the InReach, and you can text through a satellite anywhere.
Really?
So he's 110 miles offshore, and he's texting me back and forth on how to hook up through a swordfish, how to fight a swordfish, how to get it over the side. It was the neatest thing.
Wow, that's great.
But what a safety! I don't have a.
So I think ACR has on one of their little devices, they have that now, that texting feature now.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they had it's on, and I don't want to misquote or missay anything, but there is a device that they have now where that is featured. Now, I don't know if that's just designated. Do you remember if that's just designated for the safety only feature, or is that just maybe it might be a full communication feature?
Well, whatever brand you buy,
yeah,
it's invaluable for. I was on the same boat one day when it ran out of fuel.
Oh, really?
Well, he had just bought the boat. It has a center tank and saddle tanks, and the center tank ran out of fuel. And they were having a hard time getting it started again. And he had to check in his tournament, and we were just out of phone range.
Right.
And if you didn't call in by 8 o'clock, your fish were disqualified. And we were in contention on 3 different fish. So if we'd had any one of those texting brands at that time, he could have called in his fish on the text.
Yeah.
We did make it in. We got to within phone range on one engine in time to get the call.
Oh, perfect.
So we didn't get disqualified.
I was getting a little stressed out there for a minute.
Unfortunately, the same guy got disqualified on his next tournament. Same boat. But this, because of the problems the first time where they had just bought the boat, they ran out of fuel in the center tank, and it polluted the system. And it apparently, over the next 10, 12 hours, some junk got into something in a fuel pump, and they had to pump the ball for 55 miles.
Oh, my God.
To run one of the engines.
Are you kidding me?
4 guys on the boat, and they're in rotation.
Their forearms must have been killing them.
Can you imagine?
They must have looked like Popeye when they got back.
Oh, my gosh. But they got in too late to qualify. So.
Oh, yeah. Well,
so
at least they got back, though.
Yeah. Hey,
what's the most important thing?
That's always a big issue. I have broke down in the middle of the ocean, and it was flat calm. It's a lonely feeling when, what do I do now? I just blew my second engine.
Oh, yeah.
I don't have that anymore.
Can you imagine that?
I was in the Bahamas, and I blew an engine up by Isaacs.
Okay.
And I trolled back to Bimini because we had luggage and everything else there. And we put as much weight as we could on other people's boats to go home. And then we were going home on one engine. We still couldn't plane, but I pushed it a little too hard, and I blew the lower unit on the other engine.
No.
And now we're 35 miles from Miami Beach.
How long ago was this?
It was probably in the 90s, maybe the 80s.
Anyone trailing you?
No, but somehow we Ceto was in business, and they had a real tall antenna in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, thank God.
And we did reach them, and they sent a boat out. And the guy takes us in tow, and he starts to tow us, and now we're 30 miles off the coast. And here's the most beautiful floater you ever saw in your life.
Come on.
Rope and buoys and birds. And, hey, can you swing over there?
It was active? Did you hit it?
Can you swing over there? I'm on a job. I can't
Come on. He didn't let you hit it?
Oh, please. It's just across the street there. Just out of...
Doesn't he get it?
Just chugga, chugga, chugga,
No.
chugga, chugga, chugga.
Birds diving and everything.
Oh, it was.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bounce. What could have been?
What can
That
you
could have
do?
been the one underneath there.
Hey,
It could have been the one.
it's not always bad news. I was getting towed in by another towing company one time when we were on I was asked to demo a little inboard boat for somebody, and I get the potential buyer on the boat, and we pull over to the fuel dock, and we fuel up, and we had thrown a dozen ballyhoo in the fish box with the ice, and we fuel up,
Yeah.
and we head out, and we get a couple miles off of Hull over Cut, and we put a couple live baits on. I said, let's put a ballyhoo on a jig, and he opens up the fish box, which is in the bilge, and the fish box is full of gasoline. So we're sitting.
Uh-oh.
This is before cell phones.
Mm.
I had to leave the battery on long enough to call for help on the VHF radio.
Wow.
So then we turned the battery off. We didn't want to spark.
Sure you did.
So there were two good pieces of news. The towboat lady forgot to bring any clothes with her. And she was in her late 20s. And she exercised a lot. And while they were towing us, we caught a doubleheader of dolphin.
Oh, there you go.
The customer kept one for dinner, and we gave one to the towboat for dinner.
And what with the lady? What
Yes,
happened?
with no clothes on.
Yeah.
Who had to tie us up.
Did she tell you to turn your head away, or did she
No,
not care? She didn't
no,
care.
she didn't care.
Yeah.
She
was a gamer.
She was.
Yeah.
That was her lifestyle, and it was pleasant.
I got a couple of texts to read you. First one comes from our good friend Paul Castronovo. And he wants to let you know, so Paul wanted to be here today, but he couldn't be here. He's in Chubb, and he got invited to go to Chubb.
I asked if I could go with him, but he didn't invite me. He didn't.
Yeah, no, he
I
didn't,
think
he didn't invite me either.
anytime.
Listen,
I think he did say anytime, but I don't think he meant
he
it.
didn't invite me either. Right. And, he doesn't, he doesn't want to
Well,
take
he
me
didn't
fishing.
want to offend either
Paul's
one
gotta
of us.
Paul's
And
got to take me fishing.
He didn't want to mess up this podcast, and he didn't. Therefore, he couldn't take both of us, so he didn't want to offend one of us, so he didn't take either one of us.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
So what did he say? Did he catch
So
something
he says
well?
he's been marlin fishing for 10 hours and no bites.
Oh, well, that's marlin fishing.
That's marlin fishing. Yep. It's
They
a drag.
always bite on
It's
the
a
11th
drag.
hour.
It's a drag. And then I have another text from our good friend Adrian Gray.
What a gentleman.
Fantastic.
He's almost as good an artist as Dennis.
Oh, stop it.
Almost. Not quite,
Stop
but
it.
almost.
Adrian's got more talent in his thumb than... Listen. All right, so he wants me to bring up bananas, but we've talked about that so many times, right? But I do want to say, all right, and I'm going to mention this to the crowd that hasn't heard this before, right? But for those of you that don't know, that the reason that the banana was taken off the Fruit of the Loom logo conglomeration is this man sitting across from me right here, because he is so superstitious about bananas on the boat that he even went right down to the tag on your Fruit of the Loom and said, you got to get that banana off your underwear.
I can't tell you how many times on my boat I had 2 or 3 customers chasing each other around with a knife so they could cut the labels off the back of their shorts. We never did that. We only did that at Idle going down the canal, but I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
They'd give a guy a wedgie and cut the label right off his underwear.
So
And the band as well.
So you reached out to the Fruit of the Loom and you got that handled.
They came on the boat.
They did?
Vice President in charge of sales was on my boat one day.
Stop it.
And we couldn't get a bite. And I said, doggone it, somebody out here is running Fruit of the Loom. He says, and what if they are? And we had a 10-hour discussion about why we weren't catching any fish. And
so that guy got it all changed.
he took the bananas off.
Stop it.
I kid you not.
That's great. I thought you wrote a letter and everything.
No, he came on the boat. He was a guest of a customer.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right. Adrian says that the word on the street is that you have the best fresh oyster connection in the South.
Well, I have an extremely good connection, but it's in the Middle East. I mean, the Mid-Atlantic.
Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah.
All right. So he and then he wants to also you to tell a story about Skip Smith as a kid when he used to come to the docks and you make him dance around a sombrero.
Not around a sombrero. Skip Smith, one of the best fishermen ever born.
100%.
What a brain. This guy figures out how to do things better every time he breathes. I mean, just unbelievable. Well, he's
incredible.
He was a young kid working at BMR. I was a young know-it-all captain who had just come to BMR. And in Miami, we kite fished all the time. And in Fort Lauderdale, they didn't even know what a kite was.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Jack Plachter was there kite fishing, but Jack Plachter apparently wasn't sharing anything with the rest of the boats. So every morning, Skip would come down. So what kind of kite should I buy? Well, there was only one kind back then, a Bob Lewis kite. Well, you should buy a medium wind to start with, and then you'll want to get a heavy, and then you'll want to get a light, and so on and so forth. And this is how you rig it, and this is how you adjust the bridle. And every day, come down with another question. And every morning, I'd say, okay, give me your straw hat. He wore a big straw hat like everybody wears today. And
we have tons of them here at the studio, if anyone.
I would dance on his hat. Not him
really?
Around his hat.
So you dance on the hat?
On his hat.
Okay.
Yeah, I would crush his hat every day, and he'd pop it back into shape. And he'd come down the next morning, he'd throw his hat on the ground and ask me the questions. I'd dance on his hat and answer the questions.
Rite of passage.
So he was...
he asked you to do it?
No, I said, you got to pay a price for
Got to
this
pay a price.
information. And I didn't like his hat, so I would dance on it. But Mark Sosin,
right,
20 years ago, said that the IGFA Hall of Fame was a great organization, honoring great people.
Mm-hmm.
But it was skirting around the captains and mates.
Right.
And Mark Sosin he was very involved in the IGFA. He felt very strongly they needed an honor for just the captains and mates. And he talked Skip into taking over the project. And from that became the Tommy Gifford Award.
Yep.
Which is the legendary
captains and crew. Yep.
And Skip is the chairman of the board of the committee for the Tommy Gifford Award. And in typical Skip Smith fashion, I will not accept the nomination. No, I will not accept the nomination. No, I'm going to do it this year either. And this went on for, I think it's about 8 or 9 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And he finally says, okay, I guess I have to. This guy won't take it unless I take it, and he deserves it. So anyway, I got to roast Skip at the West Palm Beach Boat Show in his induction. And I brought a kid's straw hat and returned his hat. And it sat on top of his head like a beanie. And then he threw it on the floor and said, you had to stomp on it. So,
since we're on the topic of Skip Smith, I really do. I'd be remiss not to just mention some of the great things that he's done for me early on in my career as a budding marine artist. Getting me involved with the custom shootout and the production versus custom and all his Bahamas tournaments early on, and really helping me out when I was, like I said, like a young, just getting my wheels turning, marine artist, and so and he's always good like that, and so I just want to say that much of my early success is due to the credits to the exposure that Skip Smith allowed me to have through his tournament. So I just want to thank him publicly for that.
Well, I want to give him another honor while we're honoring Skip. But I was fortunate enough to have, as far as I know, the first man in the United States to say, I am going to go catch a swordfish on fly, tie his own fly, rig his own leader, of course, has to cast and retrieve himself from a dead boat, never put it in gear.
Yeah.
Marty Rosticki caught a swordfish on fly. And then several other people wanted to try for swordfish on fly, and we had some bumps, but we didn't get another hookup. And then kind of lost interest in it. We got more into daytime fishing, less into night fishing. And Skip was still fishing at night, but now he was trolling at night. And he was bait and switching with planers, Moldcraft soft heads, strips with no hooks in them. And when the planer would trip, he'd slow the boat down. His crew would wind up the baits. The swordfish would bat on the bait. He would pitch a bait to the swordfish right behind the boat, and he'd catch them. And he caught some fish on real light tackle doing that.
You make that sound so much easier than it is.
Well, it's amazing how easy it really is if you got enough knowledgeable people on the boat. So at any rate, he was doing that. So I says, okay, well, I'm going to take that and I'm going to try to convert it to fly fishing.
Mm-hmm.
So I took, brain freeze, Rufus Wakeman. Rufus chartered me to go.
Rufus has been on the show before, yeah.
Well, he hired me to take him fly fishing for swordfish.
Mm-hmm.
So now we took Skip's.
That's the one that got away with his search, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we took Skip's bait and switch. We converted it over to trying to do it with fly. We did actually caught a blackfin tuna on a fly at night.
At night?
Bait and switch. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. But we had several swordfish hit the fly. He never got tight with us, but he watched how we did it. And then he got connected with Roy Croniker, who's chairman of the board of the IGFA now, I think it is. And yeah, he is. And Roy has his own big sport fish with a full-time professional crew. So Rufus Wakeman went with him, and he shared what we had shared with him. And they have now caught 3 swordfish on fly.
Rufus has?
No, not Rufus.
Okay.
Roy Croniker.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm surprised I didn't hear about that one from him.
Using bait and switch.
Yeah.
They've made 80 trips. They've hooked a lot of swordfish, but they've only landed 3. But every time somebody catches a swordfish on fly, bait and switch, Skip Smith deserves the credit for starting
100%.
the whole ball of wax.
Absolutely.
Because that's how Skip is. Skip has figured out how to catch fish all over the world, whether it was Australia, the middle of the ocean, Africa. Right. He's done it all. He's just, God, just an
that's
amazing
another great
brain.
book to read, too, is his Hooker and Madden book.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I designed the cover of that one.
My books are almost suitable for children. His are not suitable for teenagers.
No doubt about it. But I will say this. I mean, you talk about the innovation factor of everything that Skip has done, and there's so much of that innovation came out of South Florida in general.
Oh yeah,
and it has spread all over the world.
Sure.
I wanted to really take a moment with you while I have you in the room, and you're quasi-retired, we'll say, right? Pseudo-retired, right? But you can look back and you are the epitome of having lived a life that's been connected by water. That you have been working on boats since you were 15?
Yeah, I worked on a fishing pier when I was 13.
You're 13,
Had
right?
boats when I was 14.
Right.
Charter boats when I was 17.
Right, so you were professional captains.
Yeah.
19, 20, something like that. Alongside,
19.
I think I read something like that.
Ran a charter the day after I got my license without a mate on a 50-foot sport fisherman.
Yeah, and for those of you listening or watching this show that really don't understand who's sitting across from me, Bouncer, you're a legend. And you know that this is true. You don't have to say thanks. You don't have to say nothing like this. I'm just saying that. Okay?
I used to be able to say in my own mind because
let that happen.
I became a legend.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Just let that comment happen, please. Because I know you're very humble in nature, and you're going to shoot that down. Please don't.
Oh no,
let that
I'm
happen.
a bona fide legend now. I'm a Tommy Gifford. I got a Tommy Gifford award.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Right. I want to, if you're willing, if you could share with me, in reflection of everything that you've accomplished, which has been quite a lot, and you look back at everything you've done so far, and you're saying in your book, I'm not done yet, which I completely understand and believe, and I'm happy to hear that. You've got that mindset about it. Can you reflect a little bit on, what this has all meant to you? Like everything you've done, everything you've achieved by being on that 33 Dusky, and or just and every other boat in between, and where does that leave you now? Like, can you reflect on that for me?
Well, there's 3 parts to that. I was in high school, getting ready, discussing college with my father, and I went to one semester at Dade Community College. And I said, I'm not going anymore. We're wasting your money and my time. I'm going to be a fisherman. And my father said, well, if you're going to be a fisherman, do a good job of it. I think I've honored his request.
I would agree.
My son was graduating from high school. He was in the car with his mother. And he says, is Dad disappointed I'm not going to be a fisherman? She says, no, he just wants you to be happy in life. He said, well, I hope I can be half the paleontologist that Daddy is a fisherman. And the other thing happens almost every day because I hang out with a lot of old guys. We have lived the greatest lives you could ever ask for. We've all kept a roof over our head. None of us have starved. All of us have raised great families. And we have experienced life with so many fantastic people and in direct connection with nature every single day. And boy, you hit the nail on the head when you say connected by water. Whether it's the guy from Ohio or the guy from Coral Gables who's fished almost as much as we have, we are connected with so many fantastic people. We lead the most blessed life in the world. Money doesn't buy happiness. Quality of life doesn't. Boy, this is a quality life.
God, people say, oh my God, Bouncer, I love you. People say, oh, that gave me goosebumps, but that really did. The hair on the back of my neck is standing up.
Well, you say it every day. I mean, connected by water. And
yeah, but it really, when we came up with it, we just had an idea and a concept, and we keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, not for any purpose other than like, this is just a philosophical thing that we believe in, and to hear you explain it like that is just really, I just love it. I mean, I'm almost like I'm fumbling over my words, which is very tough for you. Tough for me. That happened to me.
I never associated the line with what I was doing until I heard it from you. So
it's really a beautiful thing, and it connects us all.
Yes, it
right?
does.
And it's like it crosses all barriers. It's non-political.
Yeah.
Right? It brings people together. It's that tribal thing that we talked about before. It's what makes people wave on a boat when you pass boats, and you don't do it in a car.
Yeah.
And it's what brings us together. We talked about fishing being magic. What helps that veteran? It's you, but it's also just out there.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it.
It's a vortex, and it's
sure.
And there's so much that goes into it that can't be explained. And that's why it's an ongoing conversation here when we talk about Connected by Water, because we want to really push it and pursue it and and really get underneath it all. Like, why? Because it's important to explore it. It really is. And that's also fishing. It's like, well, what the hell? Why do you 54 years, Bouncer? What kept you going? Like out every day, like doing that. And what is that?
A.V. Raymond worked for me for 13 years. A.V. Raymond was a fantastic mate. He was fantastic with the guests on the boat. He was fantastic with maintaining the boat. He was fantastic with fishing. He was everything. I've done this really, I started when I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm 74. Today's my birthday. So what's that?
Are you kidding me?
No, it's my birthday. I'm 74 today. but the bottom line is, Selfish comes up on the kite. A.V. says, excuse me, sir, take this rod, get it in that belt there. Now walk back to the motor and wind on it. Keep winding. Go ahead. You're doing a good job. Keep winding. He stands right and he said, wind. Keep winding. Keep winding. Okay, wind a little faster. Okay, you can stop winding. Now you see your drag's going out. Okay, now watch out there because your Selfish is going to jump. A.V. Raymond's 31, and that's how he responds to there's a Selfish on the bait. Here's me. There's a Selfish on the right line. Wind some more. Let him jump. 54 years, and actually, God, it's 70 years for all intents and purposes. And I still like a kid in the candy shop on Christmas morning. I mean,
that's outstanding.
Just absolutely love it. I can't get enough of it.
Like, I don't want to even ask you what's next because I kind of already know. Cause I see it happening like in front of me, and spending the time with the people that you're spending time with, I think is really next level.
Oh, it is.
Because I think that you could have gone off into the sunset easily with your reputation intact and your legend intact and everything, and just being like, bouncer out. But you're not, because this is who you are. But I think the people that I see you spending time with are important people, and it's so good for you, and it's so great for them.
Oh yeah. Well, listen. Since I retired, Nick Stanzik got me my first barrel fish.
Mm-hmm.
A.V. Raymond got me my first clown knife fish. Bill Lepre caught me a couple more clown knife fish. Chris Conklin's had me fishing out of Merle's South Carolina, reef fishing, king fishing, tournament wahoo fishing, et cetera, Buddy Love, Little River, South Carolina, put me on my first great fishing for giant bull redfish. Caught a whole bunch of them with him and some big flounder as well. Ron Cook is up in Morehead City, North Carolina, and he's turned me on to whelk soup and redfish up there, and vertical slopage jigging for gag groupers, and this summer I'm going to go up to Boston and fish for blackfish for the first time. And
oh, really?
I mean, it's just, I'm not done yet. There's so many. I'm fishing with meeting so many great people. I mean, I'm going fishing for bass. Or actually, we're going for exotics. Fly fishing with Alan Zaremba tomorrow. I mean, I get to, and Brian said, the list just goes on and on of people I get to have time to go fishing with now, which before it was everybody going fishing with Bouncer. Now Bouncer.
Well, see, that's the thing about difference between doing it for a living and doing it for passion. I mean, we experience that all the time.
Sure.
Here. It's like, I'm not sitting there laying back painting all day. I'd love to, but there's bills to be paid, and there's kids to plan for, and all these different things.
As good as you paint, what do you have to do besides paint to make a living?
Well, we do an apparel. We're doing jobs for boat wraps and like all these things that things for people.
No, I'm being facetious.
Rather than just being like just painting for myself, which I'd love to just do every day, but it's not practical at the moment.
Well, if you're retired like me, you could go broke and paint.
That's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to have to do.
Hey, guys, don't let him retire yet.
Not yet. Not
although, if you do a good job, you could replace him one day, like AB replaced me. Billy Springer replaces me. Ron Cook replaces me. I've been replaced by some great young men.
I'm searching for my apprentice right now, to be honest with you. So hopefully, we have an open position. I'm searching for someone to come learn under me and do that. We'll see.
To do the art? How do you search for somebody to do the art?
I'm just looking for an apprentice. I just want someone underneath me that I can mold and shape, someone that shows the foundation of promise now.
To be a painter, an artist?
To start out to be a designer and a painter, and to maybe learn the trade. And
God, what an opportunity you're throwing out there to somebody.
I'd like to find someone to help me out, and I can help them out.
Are you looking for somebody at the graduating high school level or graduating art school level?
Yeah, graduating art school level. Someone that wants to carve out their own niche and do this, which is not an easy thing to. It's not an easy thing to do.
No.
It's taken years to really formulate and develop it, and there is a way, there is a path, and that can be shared.
But it's a creative situation.
Yeah.
And there's some people that are bent that way, and there's some people that aren't bent that way.
No, it's innate. Yeah. It's got to be in you. I mean, it can be molded, it can be shaped, and it can be assisted.
But there has to be, you have to have a bunch of clay before you can shape 100%. Clay.
Yeah. It's got to be there. There's got to be that foundation already. Yep. It's not something that you can just teach.
Nope.
It's a completely other side of the brain, and it's
strictly working with a clump of unfinished clay.
Yeah.
No doubt.
I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for the time that you've given this, and I'm also it's really your birthday today.
Yeah.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Wow, I wish I would have known that right off the bat. We could have sang happy birthday or something. Like brought you a cake.
Oh my God, that would have been painful for anybody who had to listen.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Wow.
You've made my birthday fantastic.
Did I really?
Inviting me on here?
Oh, my God.
I have nothing but respect for everything you do, and it's an honor to be here.
Bouncer, you're giving me goosebumps again. So, we got to drive home now?
No, I'm not going home until next week.
Oh, okay. Oh, you're staying there? You're sticking around then?
I'm going bass fishing tomorrow with Zaremba. I'm fishing the first day grouper fishing season with Billy Springer and Freddie David and a couple of Billy's dad and a couple other guys. And
do you have any quick thoughts on the DeSantis opening up the red snapper season, the changes that he's made? Or
I didn't know he made any red snapper changes.
Yeah, I think they're talking about extending the season and being able to fish for them on Thanksgiving weekends and all that.
Was that him that set those new dates for the Gulf?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
I think he worked with Rodney to get that done.
Yeah. I know we don't want to get political, but he's done some good things. I mean, did you see what he's doing now with the schools?
Yeah.
You can't get a diploma until you've had an education in finance?
Yeah.
What a valuable thing. So overdue.
Yeah. It's the first thing that happened to me once I got out of high school is I completely ruined my credit.
Yeah. Everybody does.
I was like, wait, nobody told me about this. I got to pay that?
One of my
pay that bill every month?
One of my pet peeves in life is they have the draft. They're having the draft right now.
Yeah. So
they tell some kid last night or tonight or next week, they're going to tell him they're going to give him $10 million, $20 million, money that the average person can't even dream about ever seeing in their life.
Right.
And they're going to give it to this kid with not enough structured supervision. I've said for the longest time that when this kid gets this money, it should go into a trust.
Yeah.
And he gets an allowance. It sounds corny, but he gets an allowance every week or every month, whatever interval it is. And if he wants more money, he has to go to a committee that is from his team and from his manager and from the league. And those three people have to approve that he wants $500,000 or $1 million to buy his mother a house.
Right.
And they write a check to his mother's real estate agent. He has to have approval to get the money to buy his Rolls Royce. But don't let this poor kid he was raised on food stamps and barely having a roof over his head.
Yeah.
And he's worked so hard to make so much of himself. And then nobody's going to help him stay at the top of the society.
Setting him up for failure.
Yeah.
The NIL is doing the same thing a little bit. We're starting to see that a little bit. Now, I'm actually for the NIL. We have
NIL, what's that?
The name, image, likeness that the college kids are getting paid now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So Chip LaMarca is the one that we have Chip on the show every now and like quarterly, right? And I believe in what he's done because I really do think that those kids, they were being exploited by all these colleges and they needed to get paid. But I also think that needs to be regulated because what's happening now is just out of control because you got all these guys like the University of Miami is dealing with the situation right now with their basketball program where one company came in and sponsored this one kid for like $500,000. They're going to give him $500,000 to sponsor, to be a spokesman for their team. And now the other guy that on the team that's better than him is going, where's my money? Well, if I don't get paid, then I'm going to leave the program.
Yeah.
It's starting to become a little bit of a problem. I think there needs to be a little bit of regulation for it, and you call it a cap or call it a stipend or whatever with these kids.
Like you say, you can't just free ball it. It's got to be managed.
Yeah. Bouncer Smith.
Dennis Friel.
You're the best.
So are you.
Thank you very much. And thank you for coming in today.
Hey, do me a favor.
Yes.
Anytime you're stuck without anybody to talk to, just give me a call.
Yeah.
I'll try to get down here to talk to you.
Oh my God.
And I can always be a Mike Wyatt, and you can do me over the phone.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, right.
Then you won't have to see how bad I need a haircut.
Absolutely. You know what? Listen, no one cares. That's fine. You're an old salty dog, right? That's all right. So no, listen. Anytime you come down, right? Just say, hey, I'm coming down. If you want me to, you can sit in. You just, we'll do a round table. I love doing the round tables. This one I wanted to do one-on-one with you.
Well, I was going to throw something back at you.
Yeah.
You say
because Paul's going to want to be in here and George is going to want to come in.
But you say come in and sit in on one.
Yeah.
Do you know how important it is to be invited to be across from you, in front of the camera?
No.
Do you think some other guide wants to be asked, hey, would you come in and do Connected by Water? Oh, I'd love to. oh man, Bouncer's going to steal the show.
Stop it.
But that's the truth.
No.
I'll call you up and say, hey.
Only George says that.
I'll call you and say, hey, who you got on? Oh, you got Paul. I'll come in and pick on him for an hour.
Yeah.
But you don't want to have me embarrassed, shooting down some poor kid because it's the most exciting thing happening in his life. And
well, we'll figure out a way to get you and Paul and George and Myatt.
Oh my God, what a team!
Right, and then we'll do that episode, and then we'll have Then by then, Carlene will be back, and then all will be right with the world, right? Because it's like her not being here for the last couple months has been a little like off. Like, and other people said, "Oh yeah, I'll bartend." I'm like, Hey,
Carlina.
Yeah.
Don't let him talk you into coming back any faster than you need to, because you're at your most valuable position in life right now. You have 2 little kids that the only thing they care about in the world is you. So give them all the time you can. Sorry about that.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. It's actually her going, I want to come in. Well, come in, telling her to stay home. All right. So anyway.
Well.
All right. Bouncer Smith.
Sounds
legend.
like he's wrapping it up.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, I have my daughter's got a basketball game tonight.
All right.
And I'm the coach.
All right.
So that's the reality.
You get Coke cups thrown at you the whole game?
No, but I throw chairs at the refs.
At the refs? I'm worried about the parents throwing cups at you.
No, they're 11-year-old girls.
That doesn't matter.
Well, I don't know.
Every one of those little 11-year-old girls has a mother or father in the bleachers saying, my daughter's the best. Get her off the bench.
Some of those girls can ball, though.
Yeah, but
they're better than me.
Some of them can't, but their mother thinks they can.
Right. That's very true. That is very true. Actually, we had
Sorry, moms.
No, we had one. We had one 2 seasons ago. One of the dads came up, and his daughter wasn't really the best player. We were in the championship game, and he came over and yelling at us like, "Hey, my daughter's not playing enough." And we're like, "Listen, we're in a championship game, buddy," and she just kind of stands around like a light post, and we didn't want to really. Anyway. We were nicer to them.
Anybody that'll coach kids, God bless you.
Yeah. It's hurting cats.
If you're not getting it from the kids, you're getting it from the mothers and fathers.
It's hurting cats and dealing with the parents. Exactly. Yeah. We call ourselves the Purple Dragon. So, yeah.
Well, it sure has been fun. It's hard to believe we're out of time already. But
yeah.
We'll have to do a round 2. That's for sure.
All the more for next time. Absolutely. And Bouncer, please. I mean, don't be a stranger.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Even if we're not going to do a show, we can come by and have a drink.
100%.
You do have Papa's Pilar on tap, right?
I have plenty of Papas. I have my own bar. And that is the thing I wanted to talk about, too. We always talk about our sponsors at the end of the thing, but we never talk about us. I always forget to talk about Connected by Water. So come visit. If you're listening, come visit to our Pompano Beach Gallery, 3169 East Atlantic Boulevard. Check out the artwork. Come to our bar. We pour samples of rum if you ask nicely, no problem, right? Mike encourages us to do so.
And did I understand correctly that? So I'm not even sure what all you do, but I could get you to design T-shirts. Mm-hmm. You can produce T-shirts.
That's what we do day in and day out.
And hats.
100%. Yep, that we do that all day long. Yeah, we do T-shirts, boat wraps.
Do you do any paper goods like custom business card designs? Stuff?
We do everything. We are a full one-stop shop creative resource.
So there you go. So I learn something every day.
Yeah. So and that's part of the reason why I don't get to paint all the time is because we're always doing all those projects and I have
and you're just so everybody knows where you're at. Mm-hmm. You're just on the east side of the Intercoastal Waterway on Atlantic Boulevard on the north side.
Yep.
And just look out because you got to park in front of the store. Don't park behind it.
Yeah, don't park behind it because there's a parking war going on with, and I don't want to name the names of the people that we're at war with, but
But I'm allowed to say park in the front because you might get towed in the back.
Right. Yeah, it's a little sandy over there. Let's say right, sandy.
But the important thing to know is that you can get anything you need done in art right here at Connected by Water.
You can.
And
yep, absolutely.
East side of the Intercoastal Waterway, north side of Atlantic Beach Boulevard.
Yep, absolutely. 1,000 feet from the sand.
And you're only a phone call away in between.
That's it. If I pick up. I don't know. I'm not the best to pick it up, but
usually maybe we had to send you an email.
A message. Yeah, you got to send me an email. Send me a text. So a lot of times I can't pick up the phone.
Hey, Dennis, I want 10,000 shirts. Will you answer the phone?
You can call then. You can call then.
Hey, it's really been fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
No more
I
than
still
me.
can't get over the fact
You
that it's
got
your
a
birthday.
pen handy?
I do. Oh my goodness. Is there a Sharpie up there? Nick will find something back behind the bar there. You never know what you're going to find behind that bar, though. Yeah, I still can't get over the fact that it's your birthday today.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
It's a big day. I went out to lunch with a bunch of friends.
Yeah. I'm sorry I missed that
on. I came on with you. I'm going to leave here. I'm going to go visit some more friends.
It's going to kill
go
Paul.
fishing tomorrow.
It's going to kill Paul. What we got there? All right. Yeah. Oh, there you go. All right. There you go. Look. Bouncer Smith is signing his book for me on his 74th birthday. Epic moment for me, my friend. So I will just say while he's doing that, if you are in the market for a new truck or Jeep, oh, look at you. Oh, wonderful. I'm going to treasure this forever.
The paper is specially produced so that after you read the story in the bathroom, you can find a use for the paper.
All right. Love it. It's only one ply, though. No. Yeah, go call our buddies.
Yeah, but it's also 80 grit.
So it gets everything.
So who do you want to call for a new vehicle?
Joey Cardi, Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Right across the street, located here off Federal Highway in Pompano Beach, Florida. If you need anything, you just go in there and you tell them that you were sent to them by Connected by Water, and I can't make any promises, but you might get a better deal than most people will. Right? And if you're thirsty, which I know most of you are at home, especially if you've been listening to this podcast, why don't you go ahead and head over to your liquor store, your favorite bar, especially if you're in Key West, Florida. Yes.
If you're open, they can come by here and sample
They
it.
can come by here and sample it. Papa's Pilar Rum. Our friends over at Papa's Pilar Rum remind you to never be a spectator, and they want to make sure that every day you wake up in the morning saying to yourself that what I'm going to do today is make Papa proud, right? And live that Hemingway life. They keep that Hemingway lifestyle alive, and we love them for it, right?
No
if
doubt
you're hungry, go down to Lighthouse Point or up to Lighthouse Point, wherever you may be located. Visit our friends Troy and Cassie Ganter at Papa's Raw Bar. Get yourself something off the Connected by Water inspired sushi menu, right? Where they have a whole bunch of great rolls and different things that it's the best sushi I've ever had.
Good.
It really is. And we don't promote anything on here that isn't outstanding. So, I want to just say thanks, Yanni. Thanks, Nick. Once again for always coming through. Right? These guys are outstanding. They really are. Bouncer Smith, thank you very much and happy birthday.
I've had a lot of fun. You've
Good.
been the frosting on my cake.
Awesome. Your ego is not your amigo. Always do your best, and at the end of the day, just make sure you let God do the rest. And do not ever forget that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we are all connected by water. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.